Olá, anjos!
Hi, angels! Here starts our adventure. We are in front of the main road that connects the north and the south of the state of Pará. We will be riding for over 40 kilometers until we reach the vicinity of Castanhalzinho of the Pará, that is located inside the Amazon forest. There, we will find a very special community, and you are our special guest in this adventure.
This is Guarajá Bay, formed by the merging of two large rivers, Guamá and Acará. Through here, freighter ships pass bound to Belém harbor. In the past, this region was the stage of many battles, but today is an awesome touristic scenery. We have arrived to the Trans-Acará Road, which leads to the community of Castanhalzinho. But we are going to have to travel 25 kilometers in dirt road and precarious conditions. In some parts of the ride, the path starts getting more and more narrow and seems like the car won't be able to get through. In others, the road gives place to giant potholes, which makes passage difficult.
We are in Castanhalzinho of the Acará. After a hard journey in a road in precarious conditions, we have arrived here and already seen some surprises.
Inside of privileged vegetation, we find the home of Mrs. Doria. At age 104, she keeps the enthusiasm about living in this place. Today, she has a big family. Her oldest son now is 74 years old. Mrs. Doria had 4 children overall. There are 29 grandchildren, 53 great-grandchildren, and there is more, but she lost count. Mrs. Doria's memory is no longer the same. She mixes up dates, events, but keeps the hope of meeting Jesus. Mrs. Doria was the first person in Castanhalzinho to receive the message of hope through the boat Luzeiros 4. A project of evangelism that involved missionaries. They used boats to approach some more remote areas and spread the words of Jesus. The wooden bridges are useful not only to bring families closer, but also to connect dreams and the desire to divulge Christ's teachings.
In here, homes are built over the water, known as palafitas, and it was here, in this spot, that the first missionaries arrived on motorboats bringing Jesus' message.
Maria Silva remembers this project. She was also in contact with the missionaries.
They would speak and bring books to sell to us, and we would buy from them. And then we would start practicing those teachings, actually.
And did that change your lives?
Thank God it did.
And the message of Jesus fructified in Castanhalzinho. The community built a church to worship God. But because of the distance and the difficult access, the evangelists not always could get to this place. That was why Pastor Wendyson, the responsible for this community, had an idea.
We had the idea of installing these antennas in each church, and we are taking forward. And this has been a blessing for the churches everywhere in our district, and that changed the history of the church in the vicinities. I can't preach everywhere. There's no way, right? But Novo Tempo reaches these places and everywhere else. And we have weeks of prayer, Holy Week, and training via satellite. There is no easy moving around in this region. So this way, they don't have to live here to meet in a big church event. They listen to the message, the training, right here where they live.
And this initiative changed people's lives. Maria Balbina, Mrs. Doria's daughter, was born and raised in here. She watched the transformations since Novo Tempo, the Hope Channel, was installed in Castanhalzinho.
People who didn't come before now do, because sometimes some people even ask, who's the pastor who's going to preach? And then we already know who's going to preach, so we tell them, especially when it's Pastor Luis Gonçalves. He's well known. Today's Pastor Luis Gonçalves.
Midian is an example. She had been away from God's path, but decided to return.
I'm coming back thanks to Novo Tempo TV, which has been helping me so much through my hard times. Sometimes we are being tempted, and a pastor comes and talks to us, something that goes deep inside, something that we need to hear, and through Novo Tempo, we find it.
Sebastião is responsible for putting the antenna to work. The installation was made by him, who takes care of all details.
I start the engine and put it to work, and then we can watch the program that's on.
After all these living lessons about determination and faith, it's time to go home for the Novo Tempo staff. But God's care towards us wasn't over yet. On the way back, we found more obstacles. While we were doing the interviews and shooting the images, rained in the region, which complicated our trip. Our car got stuck in one of the road's potholes. It was late. It would soon be dusk. We had to get out of that situation. But there was no alternative. It was then that we could feel God's protection once again. Aaron, Gilbert, and Greg, members of the Pará's Jeep Club, who had never been to this region, decided to get to know it better in the exact same moment that we were in need. Coincidence or providence? They rescued us. In Castanhalzinho, far into the backwoods of Pará, in a region almost isolated, but surrounded by the beauty created by God, we met sincere people, pure and godly faithful hearts. People engaged in doing their best to spread the message of Jesus as far as possible.
Our hands transform lives.